bishop f6, rook e1, knight e7, rook takes e4, d6. Wait, was it bishop g5 or pawn to g4? Does that even go to an equal endgame, or am I mixing it with the bishop d2 line? In the Italian, white usually aims for a strong center with c3 and d4. This is also known as Giuoco piano, or quiet game. There's also a slower option when white plays knight c3 and d3, focusing on a simple development. This version of the Italian is known as Giuoco Pianissimo, or a very quiet game. In this video, we are focusing only on the c3-d4 plan. From black's perspective, the goal is to stop the formation of this big center, at first. That's why the main book move is knight f6, hitting e4 and, with it, discouraging d4. Now white might think, if I play d4 anyway, I'm hitting the bishop on c5. But then black takes, and then delivers this check on b4, and grabs the e4 pawn. Then again, white is thinking, that's fine, because black's king is exposed, the board opens up, and there is an obvious lead in development, which often ends in disaster for black. Fair enough. That's why, instead of getting lost in memorizing every detail just to avoid a quick trap, my advice is simple. Cut through the theory and surprise your opponents with the move Queen e7. At first it looks odd, but the queen stops d4. If white pushes, black takes, and takes again on e4 with check. Overall, the queen may be out early, but soon you'll see why she belongs there. Alright, white castles, renewing the d4 threat, because this time there would be rook e1, winning the queen. Black continues with d6, opening the door for the light square bishop. Now, as expected, d4. White is hoping that exchanges on d4 happen, forming a beautiful pawn duo in the center, and at the same time freeing up the c3 square for the knight. And here we can see the main point of queen e7 and d6. Black just steps back with the bishop, keeping the pawn on e5 and waiting for white's d5 advance. Remember that. Meanwhile, the whole white center is actually kind of shaky. Black is attacking multiple times and may soon continue with bishop g4, which indirectly puts more pressure on d4. Now white goes with this tricky idea a4, trying to trap the bishop with a5. Let's just keep a move or play something irrelevant for black to see what happens. Here is a5, and now if black takes with the bishop, there is d5, and white ends up with an extra piece. If black opts for knight takes a5, there is rook takes a5, bishop takes a, and queen a4 check, ending up with two pieces for a rook. Interesting, but actually leads nowhere after black responds with a6, securing that the bishop never gets trapped. The game continued with a5, bishop a7, and here white opted for this often seen inaccuracy, h3. It's super tempting. They don't want their knight to get pinned, because, as already mentioned, the d4 pawn becomes very vulnerable. But pushing pawns in front of the king usually makes the king less safe. And this h-pawn move is going to come back to haunt white very soon. Black develops with a tempo, attacking the e-pawn. Okay, white trades pawns, but this only helps black, who doesn't really need to recapture the pawn. Just look at this centralized knight. Also, that bishop on a7. Thanks to white's d takes c5, this menace is now eyeing the f2 pawn. For some reason, white was happy to trade his knight, known by many as the best defender of the king. Of course, black recaptures with a queen, which means bringing an even stronger piece into the action. Now white defends the e4 pawn with knight e2, and remember that little pawn move next to the white king? That's the crack in white's defense, and black just hits it with bishop takes h3, opening up the king. Point being, g takes h3, queen g3 check. invading through the exact square that white weakened with the same h3 move. And it's only move 13 and white is already lost. King h1, queen h3 check, king g1, knight g4. If rook e1, it's mate on the spot. In the game we had knight f3, queen g3 check, king h1, bishop takes f2, and white resigns. Now, let's see one more idea for black. This game starts the same as the first one. e4, knight f3, bishop c4, and c3. But instead of queen e7, black opted for bishop e6. It transposes to the same line, but it is good to see that precision is less important than understanding the overall plan. White plays d4. Now black's pawn is under attack, but not the bishop, and that was the point of playing bishop e6. Again, we are staying away from exchanging on d4. We don't want white to form the full center and free up the c3 square for their knight. And since the e5 pawn is under attack, we play queen e7. Now, as in the previous game, this move threatens e takes d followed by queen e4 check. So white castles, indirectly protecting the e-pawn, as before. Knight f6, again the knight develops with a threat on e4. Now the move d5 is quite tempting, gaining space and attacking the c6 knight. But it is exactly what black wanted to provoke, for several reasons. The pawn blocks white's own c4 bishop. The range of black's b6 bishop increases. And the pawn structure indicates white's better chances are on the queen side, while after d6, black structure points in direction of the white king. We are happy for these things. Now in the game we had knight b8. To many of you it seems weird. And when I was a kid I never liked playing it, even though I knew it is best in theory. Often I would retreat to d8 instead, lying to myself that my knight was at least developed. But from d8 the knight cannot really move at all. While from b8 it can re-enter the game, especially after d6, going to d7 and ending up at some point either on f8 and g6 or using this newly available square c5. Okay, white defends the pawn with the bishop, thinking of advancing c4 and expanding on the queen side. Which actually shows good understanding of pawn structure strategy, but developing another piece is more consistent with the opening principles. For example, knight bd2 would develop and also help protect d4. Back to the game, black plays d6, and here comes the same type of move as in the first game, h3. Again, it stops bishop g4, but it weakens the king side and sets up the h-pawn itself as a target. But how to take advantage of this? Well, black plays h6. Notice that this is not the same type of weakening on the king side which white just did, since the black king hasn't castled yet. The h-pawn push is actually an attacking idea, worth remembering. It supports g5 with the intention of pushing further, hitting the knight and undermining h3 at the same time. I really doubt that white foresaw it when they played queen e2. But the next move couldn't be louder, g5 of course. Here white opted for knight h2 to prevent g4, thinking that if the pawn advances it gets captured. So what's the best continuation for black? You can pause the video and take some time to think. If you meant to play rook g8, that's fine too. But why not push immediately? That's a sacrifice to rip away the defense. White took, and now the move rook g8 comes in. And it's obvious that the pawn on g4 won't last. Now instead of developing the queen side and preparing defense, white got greedy with bishop takes h6. Not only is it a waste of tempo, but now the h-file becomes another corridor for black's attack. After white took that pawn on the rim, black took the one on g4. And it came with a tempo because the bishop is under attack. Now if white tries knight g4, black forces the win by bishop takes g4, queen c2, bishop f3, g3, and queen h4, with mate on h1. The game continued with bishop e3, knight takes h2, king takes h2, queen h4 check. And here we see two heavy pieces attacking with full force on the two open files near the enemy king. In positions like this, as Irving Chernev would say, the attack plays itself. King g1, queen h3, and of course f3 loses immediately to bishop takes e3 followed by queen takes g2 mate. So white played g3, and the game ended after rook h8, f3, and bishop takes e3, followed by mate on h2. So there you have it, the quiet game made loud. With queen e7 and bishop e6 you don't need to memorize anything. Just know that if white pushes d5, the center closes and your kingside chances only grow. Try it out and share how it worked for you in the comments.